Accurate, dependable, and late-breaking. This is local and state news on WLEN, Lenawee's local news station.
The City of Adrian is moving closer to deciding how settlement funds tied to the Crimson Holdings odor case could be used to benefit residents most affected by the issue. City leaders held a public town hall this week to gather ideas from Eastside residents after a court-approved consent judgment directed money to be used specifically for those impacted by prolonged nuisance odors from the former facility. Adrian City Commissioner Bob Behnke said much of his discussion focused on a potential mini-grant program limited to residents who lived in the affected area during what he referred to as the Stinky summer. He explained the grants would be available to current occupants, both homeowners and renters, for small, verified home improvement projects. Purchases would require city approval, documentation, and proof that the work was completed.
And what we were focusing in on the mini grants from the conversation that we had, really what we wanted to focus in on was that you had to be living in your home during what we'll call the stinky summer. And then you either had to be a owner, so owner occupied, or a rental occupied. So not to the landlord, but if you were a tenant living in that house then and you're still living there now, we have a number of tenants that, want to work to maintain their property. So what they could do is fill out a simple form, nice and short, and say, I want to replace the deck boards on my porch. And this will cost an estimated $250. And then they would fill that form out. The city would verify through property tax records that that person owned that house then. If they were a rental, they would need to share the lease that they had to the city that they lived there. So that verifies, and then Lisa would say, yep, or somebody would say that's an acceptable expense. So if you want a new beer fridge, no, rejected, not an acceptable expense.
Commissioner Tiffany Seeler-Zykes said residents also emphasize avoiding new infrastructure projects, instead favoring repairs and upgrades to existing assets. Ideas included fixing cracked sidewalks, improving park lighting at Dunlop, Parish, and Monument Parks, and adding public charging stations in parks and nearby Daily Bread. Wi-Fi hotspots were also discussed, though they drew less consensus.
We had the idea that no new infrastructure should be invested in. There was the example of sidewalks, no new sidewalks should be built, but repairing existed, cracked, and decaying ones would be perfectly fine to use that money for. There was also the suggestion of using and improving youth lights situation, specifically in a lot of our parks, like Dunlap Park, Parish Park, Monument Park, and investing in LED specific lights that makes a huge difference. There was maybe, I think it was brought up for our area about Wi-Fi designated hotspots in public spaces. No one had too many strong opinions on that, but it wasn't a bad idea. We did say yes to charging stations, though, for people to use, specifically in our parks. That way people could have a public space to use those, like Parish, Monument, Dunlap Park, and then also outside of the Daily Bread, it was suggested, which I thought that was fantastic.
Commissioner Mary Roberts outlined community wellness proposals, including spay and neuter services for stray animals, window air conditioning units for vulnerable households, community gardens, wheelchair ramps, and continued investment in park lighting.
These would be things like providing spay and neuter services for stray cats. If people were interested, window air conditioning units, we did a rough estimate on that. That was something that a couple of people thought might be a good idea. Guessing $300 an AC unit that would provide about 166 homes with an air conditioning unit. Community garden, bringing something beneficial to a green space in the area, providing wheelchair ramps and handicap access, to elderly or anyone in need. And then again, lighting at Dunlop Park.
Commissioner Aaron Cheshire echoed many of those themes, noting strong support for upgrading Dunlap Park, including lighting, electrical improvements, playground equipment, street lighting, tree trimming, and potential use of solar lighting.
Yeah, so a lot of what Commissioner Zeich and Commissioner Roberts had already stated were also suggested in the Parks and Public Spaces. Upgrading Dunlap Park, specifically since there's no lights there currently, upgrading the electrical there, at seating, add new playground equipment, specifically to Dunlap. And then public spaces, street lighting, switching to LED bulbs, tree trimming around the light posts, possibly solar lights, replacing the burnt out bulbs altogether, and we also said public charging stations.
Mayor Angie Sword-Heath said other suggestions included limited household assistance, support for organizations serving the unhoused, donations to local charities, help for meal programs, outdoor workout areas, and possible compensation for businesses affected by the odor issues.
Direct household assistance. We did have the idea for the child care subsidy on there. Assistance with utility bills. We have to pay a tax percentage for the year, but like as you just heard, that wouldn't be very much money. As Commissioner Roberts just said, it's going to be like $50. So, that is something to also consider. Giving money to organizations helping the unhoused, and giving money to local charities also came up on mine for that. To give money to the East Side Coalition, to give money to the meal assistance program, to outside workout area. So they have those in different areas. I asked the person that suggested this if that meant in a specific park. No, it just could even be like a plot of land the city owns or something. It wouldn't necessarily have to be at a regular park, but that was one of the ideas. Compensation for businesses. Somebody wants that to be considered as well, because businesses, there are a few in that area that were definitely affected and they are close.
City Administrator Chad Boss said staff will now evaluate what proposals are legally permitted under the consent judgment, feasible to administer, and appropriate for commission consideration. Any action will come back to the City Commission for a public vote, likely after the new year.
We take this information and look at what's feasible for the city to actually implement, to make sure it's legal. Then we bring it back to the City Commission. The commissioners will be able to make that decision, what we can actually do from today's meeting and the meetings that we've had up to this date. We're going to follow up with what the judge said with the consent judgment, and it's supposed to be used to those who are directly affected by that smell and odor. We're going to use your ideas with the commissioners, through the commissioners, and make that decision, like I just said, not on the December 15th meeting, but in due course.
After the meeting, Commissioner Behnke explained the city has not yet distributed the funds because only half of the settlement has been received. Crimson Holdings entered bankruptcy before the remaining amount could be transferred over to the City of Adrian. He said the goal now is to move forward with a plan using the funds already held while remaining ready if additional money is recovered.
We haven't distributed that money because we received part of it, and then Crimson Holdings went into bankruptcy. So we never received the additional $50,000. However, one of the things that we've been doing from the commission is wanting to get that money out, if possible, or at least have a good plan if we were to receive that additional $50,000 soon, so that we don't need to wait another months, years to get that out. So tonight really was a planning session to get information from our residents, and then we'll have a discussion in the future at a commission meeting about, do we spend the $50,000 we have now? Which personally I hope that's the case, so that we can get it out to the residents, and then from that, if the additional $50,000 comes in, then we already have a blueprint of how we spent that money. If we were happy with that, then we could continue.
Behnke said he personally favors the mini grant approach because it allows residents to address practical needs such as porch repairs, painting, or property cleanup through a simple application and reimbursement process verified by the city.
So personally, I am a little biased because I like the mini grant idea, which is a quick and easy form that says, what's your name? Did you live here during the time that was impacted with the smell from Crimson Holdings? What project around your house or your home do you want to work on? So that could be replacing the deck boards, painting your house, new grass seed, any sort of things like that. So a quick, simple form that would say, I want, $250 for porch boards. That would be approved by the city. And then from that, you would buy your deck boards, replace them, take a picture of the work, and then submit your receipt and get the money back. At least that's kind of the idea that we came up with to verify. Make sure that, as we joked, that you're not buying a new beer fridge from Lowe's, that sort of thing. And then that check gets processed the quickest, easiest way that we can from the city.
City leaders say all decisions regarding the Crimson Holdings settlement funds will be discussed and voted on publicly, with a formal proposal expected to reach the commission in the coming months. I'm Brian Vish for WLEN, Lenawee's local news station.
Count on WLEN, Lenawee's local news station, to keep you informed with accurate and dependable information 24 hours a day.